Welcome back to another episode of the GPS podcast, Grow Your Passion into Success. Where
we grow your passion into success.
That's not really our phrase, but it's cool. We do that too, though. We do grow their passion into success.
It's called GPS podcast, silly.
And we give them the roadmap. All right, this is episode 14, so y'all see 14 times. It takes practice makes perfect, and as you see, we have not perfected it yet, but we're gonna get there one day.
I said it right. Where we grow your passion into success.
No, we give you the roadmap. Actually, y'all want to know what's crazy? This whole thing about growing a roadmap into success, guess who came up with that? It wasn't me. I'm just gonna say that. There's two co-hosts on this podcast, and the person who came up with it was very smart, and there also was me. But I'm not the one who came up with it. So I'm just saying,
wow.
The person who actually came up with it is the one person. Like, they had one job to do, you know?
I have one job to do.
One job to do.
And I do my job well.
Well, welcome back to GPS Podcast. Today we are locking in on a topic that, as being entrepreneurs who own a private school, this is a topic that really we wanted to talk to parents specifically in this episode, because we got some questions for y'all parents. We got some questions.
We talk about education a lot.
We talk about education because we own a school.
Is this an educational podcast or an entrepreneur podcast?
I think entrepreneurs need to be educated. So
Facts.
It's both, right?
Facts.
It's Entrepre-CATIon. Is that a word, y'all? Entrepre-CATIon? Hey, don't steal that from me. I'm going to get that copyrighted. Entrepre-CATIon. Right?
Edupreneur?
Yeah.
I like edupreneur better.
Oh, wow. I just noticed something, y'all. I can't tell you. At the end of this episode, I'll let y'all know. I got a very special announcement to make. And I'll announce it at the end of this episode before we get off. My wife is going to hate me, but, this is going to be the most lit announcement of this podcast ever. Huh?
What just happened?
Nothing.
Okay.
So, anyway.
So, Eduprecation.
Eduprecation. We on to this topic, eduprecation. All right. So, here's the thing about eduprecation and what we were talking about. We were asking this question, like, how do parents decide where they want to send their children to school? Like, what matters the most to parents when they want to send their children to school?
It's almost like asking the question when you're looking for a spouse or a significant other.
Right.
Everybody always asks the question. We just asked our daughter, what things do you look for in your significant other? So it's the same thing. Okay. What things are you looking for in your child's schooling, your child's education?
Well, in a significant other, that's a lot easier. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, bow, bow, bow. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? Is she right tight? You know what I'm saying? You feel me?
So I guess I'm right and tight.
I mean, you might have made the cut. You feel me? You know what I'm saying?
I don't like you right now.
Anyway, I mean, yeah, I feel you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You feel me enough to marry me?
I do. You know what I'm saying? This has been a long journey, and here we are. You know what I'm saying?
So what are parents looking for in their child's education? That's the question on the table.
I'm thinking about this issue, right? So it's like the trade-off, right? There's pros and cons to everything. I don't think anything's perfect. We own an institution. Our institution's not perfect, right? Like, for example,
true,
because we're a newer school, we don't have a big sports program. So if you're like, I want my child to play sports, then this may not be the school for you because we don't have a big sports program, right?
True.
But for me, I guess, and it's different for every parent, and we don't get a parent handbook, so if we did, maybe parenting would be easier. But for me, like certain things... So
there's no how to run a school handbook either? Maybe there is.
There is actually how to run school handbooks.
There is.
Yeah, there's all kind of stuff on how to run a school. That's actually, like, a school can be systemized, right? You can't systemize parenting because I heard this on a YouTube short the other day, right? No two children are raised in the same family.
Even though there's children that are raised in the same family?
No, think about this, right? Let's say me and you, let's say we have 3 children, right?
Yes.
Okay. Child number 1 is the oldest child.
Right.
That child's getting raised differently than the other 2 children. Because one, when that child was born, the place where we're at in life, we're not going to be in that same spot when the second child is born. Also, additionally, the first child doesn't have any other siblings to interact with, so that child has a different experience. The second child, they never know what it's like to not have a big brother, big sister. So that child not only is now being the youngest or the middle child if a third child comes, their experience with their parents is completely different than the first child. The first child's experience is going to be completely different than the other 2 children if you have 3.
What about identical twins?
Identical twins.
Or triplets, for that matter.
Even still, like, parents say they don't have favorites, but sometimes they give favorites, or it's just wherever you're at. Like, as human beings, we evolve. So children are born into different evolutions of their parents. right? So like if you like imagine you're born. So for our daughter, for example, right? When our daughter was born, we were dead broke. Like we was in Povertyville. Like, yo, I never even seen this part of Povertyville before.
Where was I at?
Link, lie heap, food stamps, like the whole shebang. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, we was down bad. But if she was born today, she might think that she comes from a wealthy family. She don't know like this. Oh no, this is new money, daughter. This ain't. You know what I'm saying? Like we wouldn't always. Not that we at the top now, but we wasn't where we're at today. We wasn't here a decade ago. You know?
Okay.
Even though in her mind, she think we always been rich. But
millionaires to her.
I think we straight millionaires out the gate. Like, yo, I need to go to Disney World this year. And then next year, like the next week, I'm thinking about going to LA. Like, hold on, wait, are you paying for this? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about? But anyway.
So back to the question.
Back to the topic at here.
What are parents looking for in their child's education? Or are we asking for what they're looking for in their child's education? Or are we asking what are they looking for in their child's school in particular, like the institution that your child attends?
True. Well, I mean, I think both, right? So, for example, it's important to me, and one of the reasons that we started a school, and if you look at our staff, 95% of our staff looks like we look.
I think that maybe, I don't know if we have enough time, but I think we should define those two things. Like, are they two different things?
Education and institution?
Yes.
Yeah, they're not the same. You want to give us you want to put some meat on the bone?
No, actually, I want you to.
Okay, the short version, education is, you have your Common Core curriculum, math, science, English, those things, right?
I can go now. I just wanted to see if I didn't want to be the first one to say something and not be right.
Okay.
But yeah, I think education is like the X's and O's of like the math, the science, the reading,
right,
the comprehension.
But there's a second part of education.
You think so?
Yeah, because education isn't just the actual learning of the topic or the subject.
Because your mind is always formulating, especially children. Yeah. Their minds are always formulating and taking in new things and learning new things and picking up on new habits.
Zainab said something to us in Jamaica that stood out to me.
Okay.
She said in Jamaica, their class field trip was to Panama and the other field trip was to Colombia because traveling is the best way to educate a child.
Okay.
So think about that. They're not in a classroom. They're literally traveling to Panama from Jamaica, traveling to...
So education is also hands-on, like...
It's more than just like a classroom.
I agree with that because we provide a lot of hands-on education for our children.
Absolutely. So there's more factors in place.
Just going to see a new movie, like going to see the new Black Panther movie was educational for our children.
Absolutely. Because now you get this experience together and you learn from the experience. Because there's certain things you can't teach in a classroom. Right, you can't teach behavior, certain things, right? Like how you behave inside of a movie theater. Yeah. You can't teach that in a classroom setting. Like you can try to duplicate it, like turn the lights out, play a movie, but it's still not the same. It's not exactly the same as being in the public and experiencing it. So there's a part of education that's not just books and academics. Some of the smart. Think about R. Kelly, for example, right? Shout out to Kales. Right? Think about R. Kelly.
Shout out to Kales.
They say he's dyslexic, right? We're going to do the free Kales thing. I don't know if we do free Kales. It depends on which side of that thing you on, right? Whether you step it in the name of love or not. But anyway, think about R. Kelly. Apparently he's dyslexic, so he has trouble reading, right? Some people say he can't read. But because he's dyslexic, he can't read. But R. Kelly's responsible music-wise for like all these hits in the 90s. Michael Jackson, the Titanic song.
I thought Mike wrote for... Kales wrote for Mike?
No, R. Kelly wrote for Michael Jackson. R. Kelly actually has, you can even find it, R. Kelly actually has, what do they call it, the reference track for like You Are Not Alone and stuff like that. Like, R. Kelly was the man when it came to making hits in the 90s, even into the 2000s. Everybody that jumps on tracks with R. Kelly gets rich because he makes good music, right?
Okay.
His personal life is his personal life. That's a different, we ain't gonna touch that subject here. But so R. Kelly's education is through the roof. He knows how to make music that people want to listen to. He knows how to engage with people and give you, like, people still listening to R. Kelly right now. I mean, I was just listening to Kelly the other day.
Saying, like are you saying that because you were just listening to R. Kelly like 2 days ago?
I'm just saying, but like, think about it. This man has the ability to, like, touch you musically. And he sonically, he doesn't just make music like one type of music. Like, you had 12 play And the 12 play music, you're like, okay, 12 play is one thing. But by the time you get to the end, he got like love letter and all that stuff. He's making music that sounds like it's written in the 30s. He's making gospel music. He's making steppers cuts. He's making reggae music. He's making country music. Like R. Kelly's range, that's real education. You know what I'm saying? That's like real education. So there's more than just the classroom. So
then what's an institution?
So I think an institution is something that deals with governance. Institutions deal more with governance, right?
So institutions are systems, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're
systems.
The systematic way in which we operate.
Yeah, because you have like banking systems, you have housing systems, you have economic systems. So you have these different systems, and that's what institutions are. And one of the big problems in the black community is that we have a lot of businesses, but we don't have a lot of institutions.
So right? The systems or the institution, the institutions of schools or educations, I guess, define or give you the baseline for your education.
Absolutely.
So the institution that you go to school in kind of defines the culture of your education. So
absolutely.
Whether or not you learned that your people were slaves or were they indentured service, the institution now gives you the culture of that education. And then the person in that institution and how they deliver that lesson. We were once slaves, and this is what happened to us, and this is how we can learn from that, and this is how we get better from that. Or your people were indentured servants, and they had a contract when they came over here with a certain group of people, and so that's two completely different ways to deliver the same message.
Absolutely. And so the question then becomes for parents, and we're getting this because from our personal school, right? There's people in our city that like, yo, we love the idea of the school, we love what you do, here we want to donate some money, but we don't want to send our children to your school. Right. And the question becomes...
that institution.
Yeah. So, well, the school in itself is the institution. So then the question becomes, well, if you love what's happening, what is it that other schools have that our school doesn't have
as an institution
that you put more value in that, right? And so then the question becomes like, so what are you looking for as a parent, right? Because for me, it's important for me that all my daughter's teachers look like her, right? Why is that? So there's this thing called the Obama effect that happened when Obama got voted as president.
True.
They took a group of children, and this group of children, they tested him before he was the president, and this group of children did like horrible in this test, right? After he became president, they didn't give these children any new information. They didn't give them any new study guides, anything. They gave that same group of children the same test after he became president, and the children passed the test with flying colors. So it lets you know when you have an example out before you that looks like you, that you can relate to, it increases your esteem and it increases your educational value.
So the institution that's providing you the education plays a factor in the education that you're receiving.
Absolutely.
As a child.
Absolutely.
Or as a person.
There's a white woman named Jane Elliott. I think that's her name, Jane Elliott. She does this piece with like white college students, right? And she tries to teach them about racism, but it only works because she's a white woman that teaches this. And it's I don't know if you ever seen it on YouTube.
So they're able to receive it because it's coming from her.
They're able to receive it because it's coming from her. And she also understands the population she's talking to. So she does this thing where she like divides them by eye color, like brown eyes and blue eyes. Mm-hmm. And then she treats one set like the minorities and the oppressed people in the community. She treats the other set like the elites or, you know, your people who have money or whatever case may be. And then she brings them together. And after they have this experience, she asks them, she says, well, if you know black people are being treated like this in society and you don't do anything about it, she says, why not? Because you know you don't want to be treated like this. And it dawns on everybody like, yo, we really have this privilege. We're really in this position, but because she's the one delivering the message, it gets through. Imagine that same message being done, that same class being done by Oprah. You know what I'm saying? If Oprah read that same class, she'd get called so many names. She'll probably be on the thing. They'll say she's anti this, anti that. They'll come for her.
What's her name?
I believe it's Jane Elliott. You can fact check me.
Or if Jane taught that same lesson to a group of black students.
If Jane taught that lesson to black students, it wouldn't even connect.
It's completely different hearing about slavery out of Jane's mouth,
true,
than out of Jeanette's mouth,
true,
right? It's two completely. It doesn't even sound the same. They could literally be saying the exact same thing, like literally the exact same words, but the way it comes off of, what's the black girl's name? Janae or whatever I said her name is.
Right.
Jaquaniqua. The way she delivers it,
True.
like I'm on the edge of my seat. Like, yes, ma'am, you're right, Jaquaniqua. For real, that's what happened to us. Wow. But when Jane is telling me,
and that's an important
out of
part.
there.
It's an important part of culture, right?
And that's. I guess the question for us comes down to, there's two different types of institutions here. And the question, I guess, that we're asking is, why do parents choose Jane's institution over Jaquaniqua's institution?
Because for most of us, we haven't been educated ourselves, right? Even as parents, we haven't been educated like in a knowledge of ourselves, right? So Denzel Washington, if you go to YouTube, you can find Denzel Washington talking about this. He talks about the difference of culture. He's like, it's not race, it's culture. And he said, when you wake up Sunday morning and you smell that hot comb on the stove, that's cultural. Like a white girl's not going to know what it means to have a hot comb on the stove, right? That's cultural. It's not race, it's cultural. Because of the type of hair that we have, that's something that our culture experiences. So when it comes to academics, education, and children being educated, you got to take into effect that whoever is educating them. So even to the point, Martin Luther King has a quote. In Martin Luther King's quote, they asked him about integration. And Martin Luther King responded, I'm paraphrasing, y'all, but don't kill me, but I'll get the actual quote and post it somewhere so y'all get the actual quote. Martin Luther King's quote was that he believes in integration everywhere except for when it comes to schools. Martin Luther King was not pro integrating the schools. He said that the people that think low of us, our children, are our most precious resource. And he said if people already have a low standard of us as a people, and we give our most precious resource, which is our children, to them to educate them, then it's going to ruin the minds of our children. Facts. So most people think Martin Luther King was 100% integration, but they don't know that because why? Because probably when they got educated themselves, right?
That part was left out.
That part was left out because culturally, that's not a comfortable conversation to have. That's like, and that's a big part of culture.
And it's not education. A bias thing. It's not even a racist thing. Like honestly, we only have this problem in America. True. Right? If you went to India, the only people that are in the educational school systems are other Indians.
Right.
So they don't have this issue of having an Indian person being taught by a Japanese person.
True.
They don't have that.
True.
Right? When you go to China, the teachers are Chinese.
True.
You don't have, hell, if you go to North Korea, you don't have South Korean teachers educating your North Korean students.
True.
Right? So why is it that in our culture, in this country, literally the United States of America, why do we have African American students not being taught by African American teachers? It makes sense all over the world.
Though.
Right?
That's the problem. We don't own the institutions.
Exactly. But like for us, why is it that we don't see that? So it's important for me that my black daughter be educated by other black people. Sure. Women, yes. I mean, men, yes, but even more so other black women, right? True. Who better to teach and train a black woman how to be a black woman than another black woman? It's not bogus. Who's better to teach and train a Brazilian woman how to be a Brazilian woman other than a Brazilian woman? It don't even make any sense. Like when you think about it, you're not going to have a woman from Thailand come in and teach and train the young girls how to be Brazilian. It don't even, when you're like, wait, what? When they have an option to have a Brazilian woman in front of them. We're not saying that Brazilian woman is going to be perfect, but who better to teach and train her than another Brazilian woman? True. But in our culture, in America, we don't buy into that. So it's not, the institutions should be filled with people that not only look like us, but they have the same experiences as us growing up. And no, those experiences don't have to be, I don't have a father, you don't have a father. It doesn't have to be just the negative experiences. It could just simply be the experience of growing up black in America.
Can you imagine?
Literally.
Can you imagine if you went to go watch Lion King and then Simba was like, hey, Dad, what's that shadowy place? And he's like, that's where you go to school, Simba. The hyenas will teach you how to be a lion. Right? Like, the hyenas are the best teachers of teaching you how to be a lion. And Simba's like, okay, because the hyenas the hyenas can't teach a lion to be a lion. And you don't find in nature, the elephants learn from elephants. Elephants never go to the monkeys like, yo, Rafiki, put me on. Right? It just doesn't make sense.
Lions don't even go to tigers.
Exactly.
Jaguars.
They're still cats.
Jaguars don't go to cougars.
No.
They learn from their own specific species.
Absolutely. So the question becomes for parents, why is that a major factor, number one? And if it's not a major factor, why not? Why not? Because one thing that
in this country, because it's not an issue nowhere else.
A real story from our school. I'm not going to say the students' names, but 2 students came to me, and both of these students had extremely traumatic backgrounds. One student had homicide or manslaughter on his record. Another student had serious traumatic issues. And when speaking to them, I told them that I was aware of their situation. And they was like, but you never treat me differently. And then they said, well, this is their words, so I'm not, inferring. This is their words. They said, I'm glad that you know that, but like that you are who you are, like as a black principal. Because if I had a white principal that knew this about me, I feel like they would treat me differently. Like I'm comfortable with you knowing because the love that you share and the experiences you share is real, but I wouldn't feel comfortable if somebody of another ethnicity knew this information about me. And that's a real thing for our young people. Like just feeling comfortable in class. I remember I went to school. So we had 2 different educations growing up, right?
True.
I went to school with predominantly white institution. And I remember.
And I went to school where I can count on one hand the number of white teachers.
So we had 2 different experiences growing up, right? We weren't even educated the same, right?
Like, we didn't. 2 completely different institutions.
Like you went to Mars. And I was on Pluto. Okay?
Shout out to King Crusaders class of 2002.
I'm not going to shout mine out. Shout out to my people, though. Salute to y'all, my day ones out there. Anyway, right? So I'm in class one day. Huckleberry Finn is the book, right?
What?
The teacher comes to the board. There's me and my
you told me the story.
Shout out to Renita. OG Riri, what up? So we in class. The teacher says, hey, in a class full of all white students and then us too, you guys don't mind that this book has some language in it that may be questionable. She says, so I'm going to go to the board and write it. I don't want to say it out loud.
She goes to the chalkboard. Talk about To Kill a Mockingbird.
She goes up the entire chalkboard like N-I-G. Like she took up the entire chalkboard. So when you walk in the room, it says nigger across you know how big them old school chalkboards was?
Facts.
The entire chalkboard says, she's like, this word here, nigger. Do you mind if I say this word when we read the book? So we looking in class, it's just us 2, all the white kids looking at us. You know what I'm saying? Like in that moment, where you sit at that moment, education now is not just the book. Because number one, I don't give a damn about Huckleberry Finn, right? I can't relate to no Huckleberry Finn. How is this educating me? I'm from the hood. Like this is not.
And yet you're not, by the way. You grew up in a very
unhood. Very unhood, but still hood.
Suburb, by the way.
Yeah, this is true. But somehow still hood.
But you want the same black experience that you deserve, right?
It's not even that. Like I don't want like the negative side.
No, not negative. Side, you just want the experience of being educated by somebody that looks like you.
I'm going to give you even another example, too, from the same school, right? Predominantly white institution. In gym class, we had to do the electric slide, right? Can you imagine doing the electric slide in a room full of predominantly white folks? And first of all, the song they throw on, we like, yo, what's this, fam?
You know there's an actual electric slide song, right? I think I told you this.
Yeah. But like, this ain't like what we do, though. This is nothing like this. Culturally, I'm lost. I'm looking like, yo, I know the electric slide. Like, we do it at our events, but this ain't that, fam. This is something different, right? So it's like, yo, going home telling my mom, like, yo, how was school today? School sucked. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not because I didn't learn. I got good grades. You know, it's not because I didn't learn the books, but it wasn't the books. There was more to my education than just, yo, we're finna go learn 2 + 2 = 4. 2 + 2 = 4 never bothered me. It's the electric slide in a room full of folks with no rhythm that bothered me. Like, the claps is all off, feet is all off. I'm like, yo, y'all not even doing it right. Like, I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna go sit in the corner and I'm just not doing this.
I'm just gonna take my ball and go home.
I'm taking my ball going home. Because it's like, yo, so culturally we suffer that because we don't understand that culture is a huge part of education. That but if we're not...
Again, the institutions define the cultures. And so we didn't really give the people a chance to answer the question, but I guess we asked the question. I think it's a real question. What are we looking for in our child's institutions and in our child's schools?
My thing is that, like, so for parents in our city that don't send their children to our school personally, right? Like, but maybe you send your child to like some other private school. What's the determining factor?
I would like to know.
That makes you choose that school? Because yes, your child, so like, okay, your child's not in public school, so they lose some of the hood stuff, right? So you don't have like gang banging or fighting in school. That may not be there. You may have a safer environment as far as your peer-to-peer interactions, but do you really have a safer environment? Right? Like, are you really gaining something when you send your child there? Because now your child has to, assimilate with, they have to blend in. Because if they don't assimilate with that population, then they're going to be the outcast. Like, we just had a child come to the school, got in a fight, because the principal told him, well, because you're darker and most of the children here don't look like you, it's easy to identify you when you do something. Where it's harder to identify Billy, Bob, and Tom because they all look the same. Like, yo, fam, that's racist. Like, you don't even...
A principal told
that the father was ready to fight the principal.
I would be too.
I'm like, yo.
What?
But culturally, and so for me, I'm like, yo, you going to send your child back to that school?
Yeah.
Like, that's insane to me. Like, yo, you're setting your child up. So you don't see it maybe as much. But now when your child gets out of school, unless they go to a HBCU or whatever the case may be, your child is in a world completely lost. Now, when your child sees certain stuff, they don't even understand what they're looking at because you can't explain to somebody that's not culturally in tune. And when I say culturally in tune, I mean like knowing about your people, knowing about where you come from, knowing your history, knowing that no black folks wasn't indentured servants. The matter of fact, I might pull it out on another book. We do an education episode. I got a book from the public schools that says black people came to America. This is what they teach here in Rockford. Black people came to America and started off as indentured servitudes, but they loved the work they did so much that they decided for 310 years that they were going to enter this contract because they loved working for white folks that much. Like, I got to read it word for word because you won't believe me.
It's crazy.
Like, yo, this is what they're teaching the children in school? Like, yo, that's not true. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that's
even
just
the
a lie.
conversation we had. So, in history, you get Columbus discovered America 1492. They don't tell you about the rape, the pillage, the murder, the Tainos, none of that. They don't tell you how they decimated Dominican Republic. They don't tell you why they hated Haiti. They don't tell you about none of the islands that they went and conquered, none of that. Then from 1492, in public school, history kind of jumps into like the Revolutionary War, but they don't talk about slavery. It kind of jumps into the Civil War. Then they talk about the white abolitionists that wanted to free the slaves, but they don't actually talk about the slaves themselves. They just say they were great slaves like Frederick Douglass. And then they say Harriet Tubman, but they don't really tell you the truth about Harriet Tubman, right? And then they kind of work their way into Martin Luther King had a dream.
Facts.
And that's black history for most schools, public or private.
Facts.
And if that's what I don't feel comfortable sending my child to no school teaching that crap. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Next episode that we do on education, I'm going to bring out our daughters. I claimed it like it was a solo, right?
You did.
I did. I said our daughter. My daughter?
No, it's your daughter.
Anyway.
No, by all means. You conceived her.
Yeah.
And then you carried her for 9 months.
Yeah.
You shared your body with her.
Yeah, for 9 months.
For 9 months.
Word.
You went through the pain and the agony of giving birth to her.
Yeah.
She's your child.
Facts. Well, you know what? We're at the end of this episode. We got to do another episode on education. But I wanted to make this announcement before we end this episode. And this is probably going to be the end of this episode, right? Right before we started this episode, right? I promised I was going to give this announcement. Right before we started this episode, I couldn't make this announcement because then it would take us like 10 minutes to start. But my wife had no clue. Like right next to her, there was this like giant spider. And then it like moved. So I was like, oh, I can't say nothing because then if she sees it, then she's going to freak out. So, hey, y'all, this is a GPS podcast.
For real?
Yeah, it was like right there in that thing.
Why didn't you want to swipe it away from me?
I couldn't. It moved too fast.
What if it...
So anyway, y'all, this is the GPS podcast. Grow your passion into success, right? And, you know, get your spouse, I guess, away from spiders. I don't know what it means.
Get the pain and sensation of my foot in your ass without telling me there was a spider right there.
You can't put that on the...